military has guns. They've been using weapons for a long time. They've got training programs. We'll borrow theirs.
The adoption of the established military training and qualification courses would eliminate the need for the members of the civilian police forces to research and create their own training. Unfortunately, what was either overlooked or intentionally ignored was the fact that the training programs had been developed expressly for military training and qualification purposes, not civilian law enforcement purposes. Even though it provided a means for training large numbers of police officers in mechanical technique, it did not address the specific mission and environments that police officers would be tasked to deal with.
The military mission is different from the civilian police mission. Always has been, always will be, even though the two are starting to converge a little bit with the way our troops are being required to operate overseas and the way the police are operating a lot of times now in this country. So there is a blending, but at the time it was pure civilian police firearms training that they could have done, but they brought in the military model.
Virtually all firearms training at the time became target-oriented, the object being to put bullets on targets from varying distances.
Officers stand with, bladed side to the target, pistol extended in one hand, their other hand in their pocket or on the hip. If you look at this, it's almost very similar to old dueling stances.
Law enforcement had already experienced its Wild West influence, and the next major influence on firearms training would come from the Wild Wild East. It's the 1920s and 30s in Shanghai, China, often described as the toughest city in the world. Two British police officers with the Shanghai Municipal Police Department studied the shootings the police there were involved in. The now legendary William Fairbairn and Eric Sykes took what they learned and not only changed the firearms training of their department, but they wrote a book called Shooting to Live.
What they did is they watched their people as they were involved in gunfights. Again, hundreds of gunfights in Shanghai. You talk about the Wild Wild West, this was the Wild Wild East, okay? They put the Wild West to shame. So it was filled with gunmen, filled with flying lead. In the years that they were there, they watched and they learned. And they saw that when their people engaged a human threat, usually at close quarters, they did certain things instinctively, okay? And again, if you look at it, there's 13,000 years of evolution here that has programmed us to do different things. If you're facing a threat, what the human being typically does is we crouch. If it's an immediate threat, we crouch. Our eyeballs both slam open wide because we want to take in as much information as possible about this threat so we can deal with it appropriately, or decide to run, okay? So it's a fight-or-flight type thing kicking in.
Fairbairn and Sykes developed what became known as the point shooting system, which Fairbairn is shown here teaching in then top-secret OSS training during World War II.